All right, so this is going to be out of 47, so go ahead and put what's up here. So basically, I'm not even sure how many you can miss. We'll get that calculated up here in a minute. Okay, so number 1, your learning targets are there. It's going to be worth 3 points. 3 points on this one. You should know exactly what those 3 points are. The first would be writing the formula. That's your first point. Okay, so before you can write the formula, you've got to be able to identify what the shape is. Well, it is there, but it's also written for you. So your first point here is area equals base times height. Okay? Now I'm going to look at the figure. Now we've got to identify, well, what is the base, what is the height? Usually, or not usually, but sometimes you get these things and it's given to you, right? It gives you 8 and 4. 4, right? In this case, you've got to actually do some counting of the squares. Okay? So, I'm just going to call this the base, even though, remember, the base doesn't always have to be the bottom, right? But I'll just call it the base because that's the easiest one to call, the base. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count this. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. You could just count it, or you could look and say, well, it starts on 1 and ends on 6. So how many are between there? 5. 6 minus 1 is 5. That's the first way you could do it, or you could just count. But remember, when you're counting, to be careful, because you guys count squares. That's why this was the 3rd most missed question on the test. Because you say, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, it is 5. Okay, I don't know what you guys do then, never mind. Regardless, I like to count the whole bottom of the square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that I know that my base of this figure is 5. So I've figured out one piece of it. Okay, now I've got to figure out the height. Now, hopefully nobody did this, but there's no way to count slants. Slants are not the height, right? What does the base and the height always have to form at? A right angle, right, everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so there was many ways you could have done this. What I think is the easiest is I always just go from right there, that vertex right there, and then I just go straight down. As long as it hits directly at my base at a 90-degree angle, that is truly a height. So I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right? Guys, is that the exact same height if I went out here and did it this way?
Yes.
Or if I went straight down from here? Or if I went straight down from here? It doesn't matter how you do it. The height's the same no matter what. So I know my height is 6. Okay? And then I obviously got to multiply them. Your second point for this question is 30 is the answer. Then, of course, you must have units squared. So, in order to get the full 3 points here, you must have your formula. You must have your answer. You must have your units. Everybody got that? Formula, answer, units. Number 2. Okay. Here we have new tiles laid in the school hallway. The tiles measure 1 foot by 1 foot. Guys, whenever you see that right there, you should immediately think area. Write that, please. Always. Even though it doesn't say anything about area in the question, that is exactly what area is. Area is the amount of 1 by 1 squares that will cover something. In this case, 1 foot by 1 foot, right? So, what I always like to do is draw a picture. You didn't have to, but I just think the visual often helps you, so you guys should as well. So there you go. I'm going to make this one worth only 2 points. You'll see why here in a minute. Okay? Obviously, you didn't have to write area equals base times height. Well, you should have. Well, actually, yes, you did. I'm sorry. You had to write area equals base times height on that one, which I'm sure everyone did. Okay, and then it's going to be 75 times 9, obviously, which is going to give you 675. So I'm just going to tell you right now, there's your 2 points. And the reason I'm not giving a 3rd point on this one or taking off a 3rd point is because technically you should have feet squared, right? But it doesn't ask for the area. It asks for the amount of tiles. So really, the most correct answer is 675 tiles, not feet squared. But as long as you have what I have highlighted there, you got both the points. Everybody got that? Does that make sense why I'm not making it worth 3? Because it doesn't ask for the area. It's asking for the tiles, which is the area. Okay, number 3. Obviously going to be worth 3 points here, right? Got to have your formula. Got to identify the shape. That has 3 sides, 3 angles. Therefore, it's a triangle. This is going to be area equals 1/2 times base times your height. Okay? Now we're going to plug in what we know. Now this one should have been relatively easy because I didn't give you any other weird lengths, did I? Anything to throw you off. This was pretty straightforward. There's two numbers. Obviously, they're going to be the base and the height. Hopefully, you all did a quick check, though, and said, wait a minute, is that really the base and the height? Because could I put a question on the summative? Could I put it on there to where it's going to be not possible?
Yeah.
Yes, I could. So I hope everybody heard that. There might be a not possible on there. So just keep that in mind. Don't just assume because there's two numbers that that's the base and the height. So I know it's going to be 24 times 30, and I'm going to end up getting 360 inches squared. So again, your 3 points for this problem, your formula, your answer, your units. Worth 3 points. Okay, let's go up to number 4. Okay, what I did here is I've already done this, but I traced that triangle. I always think it helps me to go ahead and redraw whatever shape it's asking for. Basically, what this problem is doing is it's making you decompose a trapezoid. Did you guys pick up on that? It's forcing you to do it. So I'm going to redraw this so that I can just look at it instead of trying to look at this and figure it out. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to figure out that height right there. And I'm going to look at it and say, okay, well, if I'm looking for that right there, when I have a parallelogram, which a rectangle is a parallelogram, aren't opposite sides congruent, guys?
Yes.
So isn't the height of that triangle got to be 12 centimeters?
Yes.
Okay. Then I look at my base. Well, if I know that the base from here all the way to here, the base of the trapezoid that is 25. I need to know, or I need to ask you guys, do I know the distance from right there to right there?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I know that that's 18 because of that rule again. Opposite sides are congruent in a rectangle. Okay? So this is one of these situations, once again, we've been talking about it all year, right? Whole minus part equals part. The whole would be the whole distance all the way across from there. I know one of the parts, and I'm going to subtract the part to get the other part. Make sense? So I do 25 minus 18, and that's where I learned that that's going to be 7. Okay? So this question right here is going to be worth 3 points, obviously, because of what you guys know how to do. It's got to have your formula. 1/2 base times height. Then you go ahead and plug it in. Okay? Again, just so you guys are aware, does it really matter which one I call my base and which one I call my height? No, not at all, because I could take holy cow. I could take this triangle, and I could, if we're really calling it the base like you guys think the bottom base, I mean, I could take it and I could shift it. Now 12's the base, right? So that's really irrelevant where it goes. You end up getting 42 centimeters squared. So the 3 points here are formula, answer, units. Okay. Next one, I've already went ahead and taken this from up here, and I just redrew it. You didn't have to do that, just a strategy. Now, hopefully you thought that finding the area of the rectangle was relatively easy because, I mean, it's kind of easy to see, you know, and plus you had to figure out that this was 18 right there in order to find the base of the triangle, remember? So this is pretty basic that it's 18 and 12. So again, 3 points here. You must have your formula, base times height. 12 times 18 is going to give me, help me, 216. And then of course you'd need to have centimeters squared. So again, 3 points are formula, answer, units. Number 6 is only going to be worth 2 points. I'll explain why here in a minute. Okay? You could have done this 2 ways, and I'm fine with either way. So this little line is going to represent or. Okay? The first way, if you found the area of the triangle and you found the area of the rectangle, can't you just add 216 plus 42? Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of the whole point, and you're going to get 258 centimeters squared. So the 2 points here are 258 and centimeters squared. Now, if you're somebody that likes to check over your work and just to be certain, I would absolutely love it if you guys went over here and did this. You're just confirming to make sure that, I mean, just think if you'd have done this and checked yourself, you might catch a mistake up here or know that one of these is wrong because they better be the same answer. 1/2. Now I know my height of the trapezoid is just the distance between the parallel bases. So my height is 12. I know that the bases are the parallel sides, so that's going to be 18 plus 25. Regardless, you are going to get that right there, so it's worth 2 points. Everybody got that? Okay. This one here is going to be only worth 1 point. Okay. Now you should have probably written formulas and all that, but since it's multiple choice, on this one I just thought, you know, I hope that you guys all went ahead and did 1/2 base times height and showed your work that way, but you didn't have to. One thing I do want to talk about on this, by the way, this was the second most missed question on the test. People were coming up to me asking me left and right, they were saying, Mr. Garrison, it says that 4.7 there, but that says 4. So how can that be? You're not thinking correctly. The length of each side is 4.7. That means that this is 4.7. This is 4.7. This right here is 4.7. This is 4.7. This is 4.7. Does that make sense? This 4 right here is just representing, let me do it in a different color, is just representing from the very middle straight down to that. It's just giving you the height of the triangle. Okay? So you do that 1/2 times 4 times 4.7, and you're going to get 9.4. Now, there were so many of you that put A. A is incorrect. You've got to remember that 9.4 inches squared is only going to be the area of what I have colored there in green. Make sense, guys? So all you 5, 6, 7 people that put A, you didn't do the final step. And I warned you on the video when we learned this. I said that'll happen. This is 9.4, this one's 9.4, this one, this one, this one. They're all 9.4. So if you know the area of 1, and you know there are 6 triangles in there, equivalent triangles, you can just multiply it by 6, you get C. Go ahead and put how many points you missed at the bottom. Okay, here we go. Number 8 is going to be worth only... I think it's worth 1 point. Yeah, only worth 1 on this one. Only worth 1 point. Now you could have cut it in 2 different ways, guys. You could have cut it right there, or you could have cut it right there. I don't really care how you cut it. I did it this way because I thought this was easiest, because I think I can easily see the base and the height of both. As you can see, doesn't that make sense? I didn't have to do any subtraction or anything, or adding. Okay, so here it's area equals base times height, so that's going to be 72 feet squared. This one's going to be 9 times 15, which is going to be 135 feet squared. I need to add them together, and I'm going to get 207 feet squared. It's either right or wrong on that one. Okay, number 9. This is going to be worth 3 points. Should have written your formula. Okay, so when I look at this right here, I'm just going to do a quick recap of what a trapezoid is. A trapezoid has 1 set of parallel sides. That's what makes it different from parallelograms. Parallelograms have 2 sets of parallel sides. Opposite sides are parallel. Trapezoids, it only has 1 set of parallel sides. Okay, and those parallel sides, we always refer to them as base 1 and base 2. The height is the distance between those 2 bases. These distances right here do not matter whatsoever when we're talking about area. Has everybody got that? Does not matter. They are distractors. If they are on the summative, you should ignore them. You only worry about the 2 parallel sides and the distance between the 2 parallel sides. So it's going to be 1/2 times 7 times 16 plus 24. You're going to end up getting 100. Is it C?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
It is C. That's what I thought. Okay. So you should have this. So your 3 points, guys, are formula, answer, units. 3 points. Totally cool with it. All right. Here, this question right here, number whatever this is, number 11 or 10. This is going to be worth 5 points. Okay. You're going to have 1 point for each coordinate, and then 1 point for down here for the shape. So pay attention. Make sure yours is in the right spot. So point A, we start at the origin. Remember, the first number is your x value, the one that tells you to go right or left, and by how many. So 5, 1, I'm going to go over to 5, up to 1. That's point A. B, we're going to go over to 6 up to 4. Right there is point B. C, we're going to go over to 9 up to 4. C. And D, we're going to go over to 10 up to 1. Okay, if you didn't have any of those, give yourself -4. Okay, now obviously it's pretty easy to see that aren't A and B and C and D aren't, or I'm sorry, isn't BC and AD, aren't they parallel to one another? So whenever you have a four-sided figure with one set of parallel sides, we've got to know that that is automatically going to be a trapezoid. Okay? Okay, if you put trap or something like that, is that what you're going to say? No, I mean, that's fine. Okay, down here, this question number 11 is going to be worth 4 points, okay? So plotting the points once again. So I'm going to go over to 1 up to 9, A. B, over to 4 up to 9, B. C, over to 4 up to 7, and D, over 1 up 7. Is D. There's your shape. There's your 4 points. You must have all those in the exact right spot. Make sure you had them graphed in the right spot. What shape is created then? It is a rectangle. Okay? Now, because I'm feeling generous, I'm going to also accept parallelogram. Because technically speaking, is a rectangle a parallelogram? Yes, it is. It fits all the definitions of being a parallelogram. Just like all of you fit the description of being a human being, right? But you guys have special, some of you don't, but you guys have special characteristics, unique things about you that make you who you are. So you wouldn't want to be called human being, you'd want to be called by your name. That's how rectangles feel. Okay? So, number 13. Number 13 is going to be worth 2 points. Oh, by the way, one more thing on number 12 here. I had a lot of people putting square. Okay? Absolutely wrong. That is clearly not a square. It has a base of 3 and a height of 2. Squares have all 4 sides congruent. So, yeah, so guys, sorry I didn't mention this. Number 12 is out of 1. Okay, so number 11 was 4 because it was the 4 points. 12 is worth 1. Yeah. It doesn't say there?
No.
It's learned 7. Okay, find the area of the shape above. So this is worth 2 points. It's base times height, or you could just simply go through and count the squares. Because remember, it's the amount of 1 by 1 squares that will cover something. And that's why I'm not making you write the formula here. You must have 6, and you must have units squared. So the 2 points are 6 and units squared. Go ahead and put the number of points you missed at the bottom, please. Next page. Okay. Here's their backyard. Obviously, they're planting grass seed. Okay. They're not going to need to plant grass seed on this little parallelogram area because that is where what do they do? Their flower garden is. It's a parallelogram. So again, we've done enough of these by now. I think you guys got it down, but you have to find the area of the whole thing. We got to say, if there wasn't a flower garden there, how much grass seed, or what's the area of my backyard? I got to figure that out. Then I got to subtract out what the area is of the flower garden. Okay? So, this is worth 2 points, by the way. You should have had area equals base times height, but you didn't have to on this one. And 75 times 120 is going to give you 9,000 feet squared. That's the whole area. The entire backyard has 9,000 square feet. Okay? So those tiles that were on the first page about the 1 by 1 tiles, 9,000 of them would cover that backyard. So that's a pretty decently sized backyard, right? Just wait. Okay. Then you had to find the area of where the flower garden was. And you can see that's giving you a base and a height. So obviously the flower garden area is going to be 60 feet squared, right? So obviously I need to subtract them. I'm going to get 8,940 feet squared. So the 2 points are 8,940 and feet squared. Okay. Number 14, or whatever, it's differently numbered on yours, I know, but that's okay. This one is going to be worth, I think I made this one only worth 2 points also. Just to confuse you. Yep, 2 points. So realistically, it should be worth 3. I should have made you have to write the formula, but I didn't on this one, okay? So you knew it's a square garden. That's the whole key. So you knew that every side was 18, okay? So you got to do 18 times 18, and that's going to give you, help me, 324 feet squared. So the 2 points here are 324 and feet squared. Okay? Now, the next one's only worth 1 point. How many bags of fertilizer will Brett need? So we've got to use this. Going back to chapter 5, what would I have called that right there? I would have called that my ratio, because that is exactly what it is. You did not have to do a proportion on this, but I'm going to show you using a proportion. Most of you, I'm sure, simply did 324 divided by 54, and that's fine. But I always like to just take the kind of the thinking out of it and set up my proportion. So I know my fake ratio says that 1 bag is going to cover 54 feet squared, and then I'm either going to be given a number of bags or I'm going to be given an amount of feet squared. Obviously, we're given the square footage, so there we go. So I'm going to cross multiply, and I'm going to divide. I'm still doing that, right, guys? And I'm going to get 6 bags. So worth 1 point there. 1 point. What?
Does your work count?
Yes. Okay, next one. This one's also only going to be worth 1. And the reason why is I would have loved for you all to done it this way. This is the best way to ever do these questions, like I showed you. Obviously, we know the area and we know the base, and then it's 16h equals 128, and then solve the equation for the height. But I have a feeling a lot of you just did 128 divided by 16 and got an answer. That's essentially what you do when you solve. Remember, we got to ask ourselves what is happening to the variable and then undo it. So divide 16, we learned that my h is 8. So if you had the number 8, I will accept it, whether you had 8 inches or whatever. But I just want to clear this up right now. I saw a lot of people putting 8 inches squared. Is that correct?
No.
No. Area is squared. Okay, so that would be wrong, but I'm not counting it, okay? This is just a height. Just a height. Okay, so 8 is all I'm going to take on that one. Okay, here we go. Find the area of the composite figure. All right, so next one. The easiest way to cut this one is right here. And then I know that this is 7. I got to do a little bit of work to figure out that. If I know that from right here to right here is 17, and I know that this much of that is 10, right guys? Then what's left? 7. So I know the area of the square is 49 feet squared. By the way, this is worth 2. And then this, the area of this is going to be 35. See, centimeters squared, I wrote the wrong thing. Centimeters squared, I've got to add 35 and 49, and what am I going to get? 84? Centimeters squared. So your 2 points here are 84 and centimeters squared. Or 2 points on that one. Okay, next one. You basically, the directions were a little bit confusing in a way. You were basically asked to tell me the area of ABCD, how much greater is the area of that than JKLM. So you had to find the area. So again, this is only worth 1 point, but realistically you should have actually written your formulas, but it's not required on this one. You could have went through and just counted your squares, right? And found the area that way. Or you figure that your height is 3. Your base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what's the area of ABCD? 21 units squared. JKLM would be 3 as your base and then 5 as your height. Your area there is going to be 15. Whenever you guys are asked to find something, how much larger, how much bigger, how much faster, how much stronger, how much smarter, whatever is being asked, we're talking about a subtraction problem, correct? This is going to be 6 square feet. What?
How many points?
No. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Guys, just hold your questions, please. Okay, Carlos is buying carpeting that costs $22 per square yard. How much will it cost to cover? Guys, whenever you see the word cover, automatically an area question, his rectangular living room floor, which is 4 yards by 5 yards. So I always prefer you to draw a picture real quick, even though it's not 100% necessary here. It's pretty easy to see that your area of his living room is 20 yards squared, right? Well, again, most of you probably just did 20 times 22, but I'm just going to show you the proportion. And I know that's my fake ratio, $22 for 1 yard squared, and money. And then I say, well, if that's my fake ratio, then what if I had 20 square yards? So it's obviously times 20 times 20. You're going to get $440. 1 point. Okay? This one here is going to be worth, I believe, I only made this one worth 1 as well. But realistically, you should have had the formula. But if you just had the answer, that's okay. You shouldn't have. It's going to be 1/2 times 9 times 9. It's going to give you 40.5 feet squared. Now number 20 is going to be worth only 1 as well. And did this question look familiar?
Yes.
Yep, it was right off of a worksheet from earlier, and it was one of the higher missed ones. That's why I put it. So right here, I went ahead and redrew the triangle, or close to it anyway, and I went ahead and redrew that shape, which was pretty easy to see, that if that is 4 and it's 4 to there, I'm obviously going to cut it there, I know that this is a square. 4 by 4 by 4 by 4 by 4. 4 all around. Right, guys? Okay? So, the triangle I had is the one that kind of made it a little tricky. I know that from right here to right here is 6, and then what's the distance from here to here? 4. So what's the whole base of the... Yeah, it's 10. Now, the height of the triangle obviously is not 12. Everybody wants to say 12, but again, this is another example of... Shh, guys. Of knowing the whole distance, and we've got to subtract that apart. I know it's 12. Do I know this part right here, guys? Yeah, I know that's 4. So 12 minus 4 is going to give me 8. So I know that my area, 1/2 base times height, is going to be 40 inches squared there, and it's going to be 16 inches squared there. 40 plus 16 is going to give me 56 square inches. Okay? And the last question is only worth 1 as well. Now, a lot of you guys try to just do this some random way, but again, always set it up as an equation. So you identify your shape and your formula. Now I know that my area is 135, and I know that equals 1/2 times, and I just look and see whatever it gives me, 15 times, and you could call this B, X, Y, Z, I don't care. I'll just call it B. Okay? Now before I can start solving, remember, don't I have to do 1/2 times 15?
Yeah.
That's going to be 7.5B equals 135. Now we've got to solve the equation by asking ourselves what is happening to the variable and then undoing what is happening to the variable. So we must divide by 7.5, divide by 7.5. What do you end up getting here? 18. So if you had 18, count it right. It is worth 1. But you realistically should have had 18 yards and not yards squared. It must be yards. Okay? The whole thing is out of 47.